Welcome to the Crime Dawg podcast with your host and content creator, Johnny FIORICA, who yelled at his 80-year-old mother because she gave my wife a recipe for her Italian Christmas cookies. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Crime Dawg podcast. I'm your host, content creator, Johnny FIORICA. Recently retired 30-year veteran with the Rochester, New York Police Department. Sitting alongside me, my trusted co-host, first one on deck, 20-year retired veteran street cop, legendary street cop, undercover cop, SWAT cop, homicide detective, David SIMPSON. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me, and I will add your favorite.
Thank you.
Well, the bar's low. Who cares?
That sweet voice that you hear served the Flower City 2.5 decades, served all over the Rock, Genesee, Lake, Clinton sections. He's the lead negotiator currently for the RPD negotiation team, self-proclaimed alpha male of this podcast, and a self-proclaimed 1994 Hall of Famer, Jason Blanchard. Jason, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Johnny. Happy to be here. Trying to give the Boilermakers a little Purdue karma. So we got the Boilermakers shirt going into the Sweet 16. Hopefully taking one home this year. We'll see. They usually disappoint. So wearing it for my Indianapolis cousins, all Purdue alum.
I was just going to say the Cousins Blanchard, legendary crew of men, including Papa Blanchard out there. And that's when you guys had the ambulance with those boys, right? The sweet
Still
ambulance?
have the ambulance. Yep, still have the ambulance.
Oh,
still
you do?
utilize it for tailgating. Sure do. It's wrapped up with Purdue Pete. And we still got it. We're in.
That's a sweet
You can buy it if you want.
Is that to take people to the hospital after they've become too intoxicated, or is that to get them intoxicated and it's been turned into a bar?
That would be the second of the two. And you know, Johnny, I mean, it may come a time where the ambulance goes up for sale. I think it might be a wise investment for the Crime Dawg podcast. You know, we could utilize it and have like a traveling road show, kind of like Bussin' with the Boys, you know, on Barstool. We could have the ambulance and, kind of play off of it. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Jason. And I'm going to do a second shout out to the Cousins Blanchard, who, by the way, knowing their resumes, they're way smarter than I am. So I don't even know necessarily if Uncle Johnny could afford the ambulance at this point. I'm pretty sure I can't.
Maybe depending on what happens with the basketball team for the tournament, there could be a big fire sale. So stand by.
Stand by. Well, listen, boys, we got some cool content to talk about today, but some big happenings, or like the kids say, big haps. We got some good things coming for the CDP Boys, right? David, shout out to you for securing us a studio. I just want to give our listening audience and our viewing audience an idea of what they're going to see from us in the upcoming months. We're going to slide into a studio type atmosphere, not a sterile studio like we're from a radio station studio. David was able to secure us a really cool place inside the city of Rochester that we're going to be doing some recordings from. Those recordings are mainly going to be interviews. We have a ton of interviews set up with some really cool law enforcement peoples, guys that have done cases, high-profile media cases that once we start interviewing them, you're going to know exactly the case that they were involved in. We got some high-profile law enforcement officials that have signed on to do interviews with us. We have politicians, believe it or not, who said that they're going to come on and do some stuff with us. We have local media personalities that said they'd be willing to do the pod with us. So we're super excited. I don't want to sound like a nerd or a hype guy, but we are definitely excited to slide into that studio setting and give you some great content. Shout out again to David. I appreciate it. David, I may have to make you a shirt. I have a guy that owns a company. May have to make you a shirt that says #1 on it, but we'll see.
Anyway. I appreciate it, Johnny. We have a very generous person who believes in the pod, who has hooked us up with a nice spot in a very historic building that's, I think is going to be aesthetically very pleasing to the audience when they see how we.
Yeah, I know.
set it up.
I love the pictures and the things that you and Danny, and I know Jay, you said you're going to jump in and help a little bit with the design work on that place. I'm looking forward to getting that up and running. Our tentative date, hopefully our first show in May. Our goal is the first show in May to have that baby up and running and hit the live button then. And don't forget, folks, that's why tell all your friends and family to subscribe to our podcast, because we're only taking, and we don't know when this is going to be. Jay's going to get so mad at me. No one knows when this is going to be. We're going to do a live broadcast sometime in the summer at an undisclosed location. So only our subscribers we're going to be able to pick from out of a hat that are going to be allowed to come to watch the live pod when we do that. And that's going to be done at a local establishment down. So we encourage you guys to hit up our website, give us some feedback, log on to Crime Dawg Podcast on YouTube and Rumble, and get those subscribers. Tell all your friends and family to subscribe for us, because all the people that will be in attendance that night will be from subscribers only. Jay, I know that you, your beautiful sister had said, but Johnny said that there's going to be a live show coming up, and you caught some flack from that.
I'm only inviting people that are going to heckle you and David, and that's the plan for the live show. So I think it's
That's a long fucking list, Jay. With
That's
me,
correct,
Christ.
including myself. So I think it's going to be fantastic. And
I'm
really
used to
looking
it.
forward
Bring it.
We're even going to get Danny a mic, and he's going to get in on it.
I give
I
no
love,
fucks.
you know what I love though? I do love the way you drag our producer Danny Agnew into everything. You just drag him in, and he.
Johnny, we're both Fairport guys. I mean, this is what we do. You know, I mean, got to stick together. Red Raiders, like
Listen,
Jamie
Danny,
Lau.
if you're a part
What's
of
the
the
way out?
commission of a felony, you're guilty as the guy that did it. So just because you're driving the fucking car, don't play the I didn't know what was going on card.
Felony murder, right, David?
Felony
Felony
fucking
murder.
right.
You're driving.
'em
It
up.
don't matter, man. It don't matter. You're
Click,
still in the
click.
car. We got a pretty cool topic tonight. We were throwing around some ideas. I would have loved to have done this topic 4 years ago. I got to be honest with you, when the actual topic was actually hot, because it's not like we're looking for controversy by any means, but the topic was really hot around 2020, and people made this an issue, and they shouldn't have, but they did. And the topic tonight that we're going to talk about, because we got some feedback from some of our viewership and some of our listeners. One of them said, "Hey, Johnny, could you and the boys talk about the topic of the thin blue line?" I thought that was interesting. And I said, that's not talking about it. I'm like, 2020, thin blue line, controversy, flag, blah, 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 blah. So for those that don't know, the thin blue line is a term that typically refers to the concept of the police. It's the line between law and order and chaos in society. The blue in the thin blue line represents or refers to the blue color that most police agencies wear. And basically, as a visual, the blue, when you look at the thin blue line flag or a sticker, the blue line is the cops, and whatever, the top or the bottom, you could pick, because I don't want to be heckled, but one side is chaos, the other side is lawful citizens, and the cops are standing in the middle. So that's what the thin blue line stands for. Regardless of what anybody says, that's it. There's no other reading into it. The first time I saw it and heard about it, I used to peddle my wares down at National Police Week when I was a young entrepreneur with my Crime Dawg t-shirts, and I used to go down to National Police Week in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the first time I saw it was right around 2000 at National Police Week in DC. And when I saw it, they then morphed into the flag, which I thought was really kind of cool. And then a bunch of different flags came about, the firefighters with the red line and the military with the green. But either way, the thin blue line, the blue flag, it stands for cops and solidarity amongst cops and for those that support us. And it was obviously, created for law enforcement, just like, by the way, a gazillion other organizations that are out there that have flags representative of things that they like and enjoy. In 2020, the anti-cop rhetoric started, and people started to talk about the thin blue line and how when they saw the thin blue line, it triggered them and they didn't like it. And they created this narrative that the thin blue line stood for what they said it stood for, not for what I said it stood for. And they started making up all these false narratives and started talking all this BS about it. And then what they did was they created a cancel culture like they did in 2020 and basically started talking to departments saying, you got to remove that flag. And then not only were departments removing these flags that had the thin blue line on them, you had people that were supportive of cops. And some of them were like these schools, elementary schools that had the flag up, because they supported the police in their community and they were being told to take them down. David, of course, a lot of these police agencies obliged because at that time, the crazy radical cancel culture, these nutbags, the cops and these other people that supported the cops were like, you know what, man, we just don't want to deal with this BS right now. And they took the path of least resistance, like water and electricity, and they just took these flags down. And, it wasn't like they didn't support us, but at the end of the day, they were kind of forced to succumb to the cancel culture, crazy radical nut jobs.
Yeah, I happened to be involved in April of 2021. I got brought in to local news. Some local news stations interviewed me, and also Fox News interviewed me basically concerning the thin blue line flag. And it stemmed from the Greece school district. I believe it was Greece Odyssey. And the principal had taken down a thin blue line flag that was hanging in the school because a small number of students and or family members stated that they felt intimidated and that it had racist connotations to the flag. And my take on it was basically tough shit. That's not what it means. And as a school district, you need to educate your students and your parents on what the actual flag would mean. That seems like a perfect opportunity to educate within a school district. And the flag was, I believe, was ultimately taken down. And my big take on it was that when do we just start ripping things down and taking things down when a small group of people claim to be offended by something?
All the time.
Well, all the time. We do it with statues, right? But since then, but at the time, it wasn't quite as prevalent. But since now we just, we take down statues and flags and buildings. Yeah, it's kind of common. But instead of educating people on what it actually is, and like Johnny said, it actually is, it's the American flag with a thin blue line that supports law enforcement and it supports America. That's it. There's no racist connotations to it. It's no us versus them. It is just showing solidarity for law enforcement. Not much different than your gay pride flag is for the gay community, or the new Black Lives Matter flag is in sport for Black lives. The police officers have their flag. The fire department has their flag. It's a take on the times that small groups of people can project a false narrative that then gets results. Like, it's not the majority that gets the results. It's the minority that gets things done and gets things taken down. So maybe someday soon we can go back to some sanity and the majority rules like when we were kids.
Yeah, you're right, David. The vocal minority, and we don't mean race at that point, okay, because we don't want anything to take out of context like everything does today. So we got to super explain ourselves. But there's multiple definitions for a lot of different words, people. So the vocal minority, meaning lesser, the vocal minority, Jason, were the ones that made a lot of these bitching for no reason, just a bitch. What says you, my friend?
Well, David, first of all, put your head down a little bit and lean forward. I want to get that a boy. See, there's the flag. Nice hat. I like it. It's a good look.
Thanks, boy.
See how I give you a compliment? I want you to remember this episode because I want to.
Massachusetts State Police hockey team, right there.
I like it. Looks good.
Thanks.
I don't know why we've become kind of a thin-skinned society, and all of a sudden when somebody's perception or their feelings or whatever it is, that we have to alter the way that we do business. this thin blue line flag and everything came and is and started from a good place. There was no ill intentions. There was no malice. There was no nothing, right? It was something to symbolize the police, the brother and sisterhood of it. And there was nothing of us versus them as it was portrayed to be. So, we've given it more credibility than it's worth for the nonsense of take it down and it's offensive and it's this and it's that. And the guys that have, we know tons of them, right, who have the thin blue line tattoos. That a boy, David. These officers were, weren't out here, and they were there for their own agenda and for, whatever nonsense spin that people wanted to put on it, which we all knew had no credibility. But when you yield to the noise and you take stuff down and you put stuff away and you let the other side feel like their voice is more important, that's not the answer. There's always room for debate and for conversation. And if you want to have an intelligent conversation about why you think this is what it is, we can do that. But it never started from a bad place. And it's not like, like when Dave alluded to we're knocking down statues, we're doing all this stuff. There might be a reason why some of these statues should or maybe shouldn't be taken down. But history is still history, right? We don't forget that. We don't change it. We should look to it. And that's a whole nother conversation that doesn't necessarily tie in with the thin blue line. But just because now in 2024 that we don't like the perception of something, we shouldn't knock it down. If we didn't like the pyramids, do we go bulldoze them down in Egypt? I mean, this is crazy. We shouldn't forget about why and how we got to where we are right now. And the thin blue line never came from a bad spot. It came from a solidarity of the police department, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, and that's what it was. But that wasn't what was portrayed in the media, in 2019. And we had to kind of take a step back and listen to the nonsense.
Well, one thing. When I talked about it then, there's a famous economist, Thomas Sowell, who said that racism is like ketchup. You can put it on anything. And this is a perfect example of it. He said it a long time ago, and it was applicable in 2021 when it came out, and it's applicable now, that you can call anything racist, and that's the ace card to getting something changed, taken down, removed, is to just throw it on it, but you can throw it on anything, and it's bullshit.
And you don't have to have an explanation for it.
No, it's bullshit. It's total bullshit.
No, I agree with both of you guys. And Jay, you're 100% right. I'm going to piggyback on what you had said just now. So there's people like us who are from the community, so to speak. And you touched on it quickly, but I want to drive it home. Another part of the flag, and I've heard some of my brothers and sisters so eloquently state that it does show solidarity and support in our community, right? So even not just in our community to say you have to be a cop, but people that support us. So proponents of the thin blue line, it's a symbol of unity. It's a shared purpose among our brother and sister police officers. It represents the courage, the sacrifice, and they make it such a dangerous profession. And to go on to say that it has been such a symbol, especially during National Police Week, because really, when I look at that flag, it honors our fallen brothers and sisters. And to me, that's what it signifies, in addition to what we talked about, what it also signifies. But there's so many more meanings, all positive, right? All positive. But then you got our naysayers, right? And I know Danny's going to kick me under the table and talk about, Johnny, be positive, you got to end on a positive. No, hang on a second. Those are the positive things. But the people that kind of take away from or try to steal our thunder, people say, oh, no, man, it's not that. It's an us against them mentality. I'm like, it's an us against them mentality. You're not even a cop. So how are you giving your opinion on what historically we have said, it wasn't like we changed the narrative, right? We've consistently said that the thin blue line, I'm not going to get into it again, what it stands for, but we talked about all the positive things that it stands for. But people talk about, oh, it's an us against them mentality. It's the cops against the community. Listen, I'll tell you right now, no, it's not. And I'll talk about my fictitious Mrs. Johnson again. Okay. It is us protecting the Mrs. Johnsons of the world. Again, I've always talked about her, right? My fictitious Mrs. Johnson who lives on Conkey Avenue in the city of Rochester that has lived there for 50, 60, 70 years. And she either likes it there or doesn't have a means to get out. My brothers and sisters are the ones standing in front of Mrs. Johnson's house, keeping those wolves away from her door. It's not an us against them in the community. It is an us against them. It's the them being the criminals, them being the bad guys. The them isn't the people that are the great people that live in all these communities that we serve all over our nation. The them is not those people. The Mrs. Johnsons of the world. We love those people. It's our honor to protect and serve for them. The them, when you want to say us against them, it's the bad guys. And there's also some BS, that shows that, it's a symbol of resistance and we need to reform, our police policies and racial biases. These are all platforms. David, you said it the best with that gentleman that you quoted. All of a sudden, when you lose the argument, you go to that R card, right?
Racism.
You go to the R. Yeah, you go to the racism card. It's such a lowbrow, uneducated, coming from nowhere except stupidity. When you look at our flag or the thin blue line symbol and you say, oh, it symbolizes racism. Oh, okay, dickbag. No, it doesn't. Okay, we told you what it stood for from day one that it came out, and that is, at the end of the day, we're not shifting any symbolism, right? We know what our flag stands for. We stand behind it. We told everybody in America what it stands for, all over the world, actually, what it stands for. And at the end of the day, it has evolved or morphed into some of this BS, right?
Completely. I mean, you should be looking at seeing that symbol and knowing that there's safety in the person that's wearing that shirt or has that tattoo. I don't know anyone 100% that doesn't wear this symbol on their arm, tattooed to their body, that I wouldn't tell my kids to go to if they were in trouble. That's a lighthouse in stormy waters, that individual. And that's what you should be teaching your kid. If I had 20 people to look at in a crowd and I see the thin blue line shirt on, an older gentleman standing in there, and I need help or something, that's the first person I go to, the first. And I would tell my kids the same thing. And I would tell my mother the same thing. That's where you seek, safety and shelter in the storm. Like that's what we're here for. And that's what all of our brothers or sisters are here for. And all that other rhetoric is complete bullshit. And I would just encourage everyone in the audience the same way, and I referred to it earlier, that a homosexual individual that has the pride flag on them or wears the t-shirt, I in no way take offense as a heterosexual male that they're against heterosexual males or females. No, they're in solidarity with the people and the minority in which they are part of a community. And I support that 100%. It's no different for us.
That's the great thing about this country that we live in, right? That we have the rights to have our opinions, and others may not like them, and if people didn't like the thin blue line flag, that's okay, but it doesn't mean that we have to remove it or take it down. And the greatest flag that we have is the flag of this country, right? David's seen mine; he was impressed with it the other day.
Man. Talk about a beacon in the storm. I was ready to storm a hill when I saw that flag.
I appreciate that. It's like the old school Perkins and Bob Johnson's over here in Fairport. So honestly, I take pride in that. That's the only flag that I fly. I fly our country's flag, and I don't put any other flags below it. That's my prerogative. And my dad is a Vietnam veteran. My father-in-law is a Vietnam veteran. I don't lose sight of the sacrifices that generation has made for us to do what we do and to have our opinions and to have all this other stuff because they've sacrificed for us. And, you know, that to me is a big deal. And I think we have maybe not driven that point home enough to our kids' generation through school. I try to drive the point home, you know, how important it is and on Memorial Day and on Veterans Day to honor our vets. Yeah. Not to get off on a tangent from the thin blue line, but the flag itself has given us the umbrella to have our opinions and to have these podcasts and to have these conversations and not have any fear of retribution or whatever it is to come out and say, you know, I have the LGBTQ flag flying, or I have the thin blue line or the firefighter with the red line in it. Hey, you know, God bless you. This is America. You can have your opinion and you should be able to, and other people shouldn't be able to silence you because they don't like it. You should be able to have that opinion. And that's, you know, that's what we lost when a small percentage of the population tried to parlay, some negative police incidents in the country and tie it all together with the thin blue line and all this other stuff. Like it was this evil movement and we all knew better. And we should have had a little bit more pushback at that time. But I think we've started to steady the pendulum a little bit and we're back to more of a normal sense of what this is actually about.
Yeah, shout out to your dad, Jay, Mr. Blanchard. Shout out to Terry Blanchard for his service to our country. And a shout out to Mike D, who dropped the cement to make sure that your flag didn't get uprooted and wind up through the window of TK's in the village of Fairport. So shout out to Mike D.
That flag ain't moving.
First of all, I would love to give Mike D credit. That's about the only piece of cement work he did not do at my house.
Oh, he didn't do that?
He didn't do that, but he did about everything else.
Oh, he dropped the cement at my aunt and uncle's place, right? Uncle Doc and
he did a variety of work out there as well.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Well, I figured you shook him down for cement work, so I figured he must have done this.
There's no doubt. Times are tough, and you know whatever I can get, I'll definitely get.
Mike D, a good friend of mine. But anyways, well, listen, folks, we hope you enjoyed that little commentary from me and the CDP boys. We got that idea, and I'll say it again, from comments, either direct messages. I forgot how Danny got that topic that he came up with because someone had emailed, text, or sent in a video where they were looking for us to talk about the thin blue line. So we do listen to our audience. We listen to topics they want to hear us talk about. So that was actually the first one that somebody had asked us to discuss, and they wanted to get our input relative to what we thought about the thin blue line. We hope you enjoyed that take. If you like that take, give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Go to the Crime Dawg podcast on the YouTube forum. Go to Rumble. Go to our website, thecrimedawgpodcast.com. Give us some feedback in our feedback section on our website. Please give us some feedback, either a text message, a voice message, or a video. Either way, get us some feedback, and then we'll hopefully share some of the content that we shared tonight with you on future episodes with suggestions that you offer us. Thank you for listening again to the Crime Dawg podcast. We hope you stick around for future episodes. Like my brother-in-law, Frankie Grassi, says, if you can't make it, who cares?